All right, we are back.
Hey,
how you feeling?
Hey, feeling good.
Are you really though?
Feeling rested.
I think we're all tired from Kid Week, but it's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a good week.
Yeah, welcome back to the First Take podcast. Listen, we hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you are. We have been working Kid Week this morning for the past 2 days. How are you guys feeling post Kid Week day 2?
I mean, I feel really good, but I don't have as much to do as some people who are working.
What are you doing?
I'm Lauren's, whatever she needs, she points at me and says, go do this.
Right-hand man.
Yeah, so I'm one of her personal champions is what we call it.
Do all the bad kids go to you?
And I handle discipline. Yeah, yesterday we had some issues, dude.
You're the vice principal?
Oh, yeah, I am. Yesterday we had some issues. I had to have a couple of private conversations, but today, smooth sailing.
That's awesome.
It was really good. They came back and they did well.
That's effective administration.
Yeah.
There you go. Very effective.
And we want kids to feel loved, so we start with the love and then end with but you can't really do this while you're here. No fist fighting your brother.
Nice.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
So I'm doing crafts, and it's exhausting.
I don't see you as a crafts kind of guy.
I'm not. There's examples, and I show them to the kids. I'm like, here's what you're making, and I'll be here to help. But it's a lot of fun. But mine's exhausting. Like, I just by the end of it, I'm like, okay, I'm worn out.
Do y'all get a break?
No, we don't get a break. We go straight 2 hours. They rotate through for 2 solid hours.
So there's two half-hour periods where I'm kind of going. One, I do lead a preteen small group for boys, so about 12 or 13 boys, small group. Not too bad though, because they know what we're doing. They're good. They're a good group. And then the other is I handle like the pickup logistics for in the hallway. And the parents walk in and they see that line, and I have to reinforce. Hey, it's gonna go quicker than you
quickly.
think.
I promise. It goes quickly.
Don't get mad.
Yeah, please don't get mad at us. I try to keep it light.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's cool, man. I've had fun so far.
What are you doing?
So I'm doing a run sound in the mornings and then the closing rally, but in the middle I do preteen rec with just boys.
Get to live that PE coach life.
That's right, baby.
There you go.
The whistle and everything.
That's right. That's right. And I use it.
Yes.
But no, like today we played dodgeball and gaga ball. So yeah, I mean it's hot, but
it's amazing how much they love that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like especially gaga ball.
Yeah.
And heat doesn't matter to boys that age. They
not
don't care.
really.
They're
Not
just like
as much.
100, heat index 108, whatever. That's fine.
Yeah. They didn't want to leave. So that was cool.
Yeah.
Today we had Brandon was out there filming and he had like GoPros clipped on the like dudes' hats.
Oh, nice.
With
That's gonna be
dodgeball. So
That's gonna
nobody
be
got
great
hit in the
footage.
face with the GoPro.
Oh man, that's what we need is the slow motion of the ball, like
Yes.
getting
I
bigger
know.
as it hits.
I know.
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to seeing the video,
The footage,
recap video.
yeah.
Speaking of the recap video, we want to give a shout out to Pelican Media. Those guys do an awesome job.
Nice.
That's our unpaid sponsor for the week, and they're taking care of filming some stuff for Kid Week, and they've done several other events, Red, White, and Boom, and things like that.
Sweet.
So,
That's awesome.
Awesome.
yes, sir. So, Brian, I have a confession to make,
Oh gosh. All right.
and I just wanted to let you know.
On the
Yeah.
podcast, this
On
might
the
not be great.
podcast.
On the podcast.
So I think it should be said that I literally have no idea what we're about to talk about. So like I came in here and sat down and said, what are we talking about? And Seth said, it's a surprise. So let's go. Let's do it.
Are you nervous though?
I'm not nervous.
Do you trust me?
I'm interested. I do trust you. And
Do
I
you
am
trust me?
interested in, no.
Oh, okay.
But I am interested in what you're about to say.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah, do it. Let's go.
So you're the single greatest preacher that I've ever
Stop.
heard in my life.
I agree.
All right, we're about to cut.
Should we take our hats off and
no,
bow?
No, we're about to cut and I'm about to go is what's about to happen.
You just seem like you've got this all
No.
figured out, and I just want to let you
No.
know that I want to be like you
Stop.
when I grow up.
Well, please don't. Please don't do that. No.
Yeah.
So to transition, listen, we're talking about today putting people on pedestals in our lives. And I know that this is something that we probably all struggled with at some point, whether it be with, family members, mentors, pastors, whatever. And so I just want to start off by asking, where have you seen this take place in your own life? And why is this even important for us to be aware of?
All right, so I've got a good one on this. So I actually at the Southern Baptist Convention, usually a couple days before, there's what's called the Pastors Conference, and I got to go to that one year. And some guys that knew me were running it. So they said, hey, since you're a church planter, I was planting a church at the time. Since you're a church planter, to get some exposure and that kind of thing. Why don't you come up and pray after one of the preachers? I was like, well, that sounds awesome. That sounds great. So I get there and I said, okay, when do I go? And they're like, oh, you're praying after John Piper preaches.
Oh, the Piper.
Yeah. So anyway, right. So it was one of those. So he comes after Piper's done preaching. I'm sitting in the back next to the guy who knew me, and Piper shook my hand and was like, hey, appreciate you, thanks for letting me come. And I was like, yeah, you're welcome. So, but anyway, so I was telling some people that, and literally, and this not be, but I literally had somebody say, I would never wash that hand if I were you. And I was like, oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me. Like, John Piper's like this tall,
right?
Yeah,
and that's an embarrassing statement.
Yeah. So that's I didn't experience that, but I knew somebody around me who was like, I would never wash my hand if John Piper shook it.
A little weird.
Yeah, that is creepy.
And so,
producer Butterworth, make sure we tag John Piper in this podcast in the comments.
Got it.
I have a story that actually was me. When I was growing up, the first time I was ever like legit discipled, I was about a sophomore, junior in high school. It was by my youth pastor. And I've told this story a little bit before, but he was a great dude. I mean, unbelievable youth pastor, really was just awesome. I mean, he was one of those guys that you wanted to be around, you wanted to learn from, you wanted to, do those things. And I loved him. And I probably put him on a little bit too high of a pedestal in my life because, later on when I was, in college at one point, he fell into some struggle. He fell, into some, like kind of a life crisis. Mm-hmm. And in that time, it caused me to really just question everything. Like I was serving at a church, I was going into the ministry, and I didn't handle that well at all. I was like, I'm out on all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so that was the drawback for me, but that was what I personally was dealing with in my own life too. So,
yeah. So why is it important that we should be aware of this, that we should avoid this at all costs? Avoid specifically placing people in those positions in our lives that really is just unnecessary.
I can go on this. I mean, for me, like if you think about it, the problem that I ran into was that, and the more I've grown, the more I've seen people maybe try to, put me into positions. Cause like, as I counsel people, as I've pastored people, as I've had people in the youth group and all that kind of stuff, sometimes you can feel people sort of doing this to you. And like, it's given me a different perspective on what I did to that guy. Mm-hmm. I put pressure on him that no man could handle. Mm-hmm. Like if you think about it, that's the problem.
Right.
Is that we're placing people in a place that no one can really live up to. I mean, some people are going to handle it better than others, and they might not fall into these huge life crises, but there's going to be ups and downs in everybody's life. Mm-hmm. And so to put somebody on that throne of your life and your heart that doesn't belong there, that doesn't have the right to be there, that's the problem. Is that it's unfair to you and it's unfair to them. And so I saw that with my mentor. So
yeah. Have you guys ever seen this in maybe in your marriage or somebody else's marriages, like where you love this person so much or you think so highly of this person, maybe just out of like sheer, respect or admiring them? Like, has that been a thing that you guys have struggled with in your marriage or no?
It's a constant struggle. And so I tell people all the time of like, you can't love your wife too much. You can love her the wrong way. Mm-hmm. So, and that's putting her on a pedestal, kind of just like what John said. Anytime we do this to anybody, we put them in the position, and we don't say it, but we feel it. We put them in the position of savior. Mm-hmm. Yes. That's just too much expectation on one person. You're going to crush them with expectations, or they're going to disappoint you because you have those expectations. And either way, it's going to end in disaster. So yeah, in marriage, like, my wife's amazing and wonderful. Today's our 21st anniversary. So
so give him a hand, Butterworth.
Yeah,
give him a hand.
Thank you. It's, anybody who can live with me for 21 years and still be excited about it is something special. So, but anyway, but at the same time, I don't want to put any pressure on her that she's not Jesus.
Yeah.
And I'm not Jesus for her. Mm-hmm. We both have a relationship with Jesus. So yeah, it just goes disastrous. And listen, not just in marriage, but I've seen people do it with their kids too. So
placing their kids
in that position of, you know, as long as this kid turns out this way that I want them to turn out, then I feel like I'm successful. I feel like I'm wonderful. So any hint that it's not going right, and it will devastate you as a parent, or you will crush your kid with expectation.
Yeah, man, I never thought about that, but that is true. I've seen that happen a lot with people where, you know, their performance, how they live up to those expectations can just become so overbearing.
Yeah.
The kids are usually out on that at some point.
They are, you know, because you can't live like that. You just can't live under those expectations. And so they'll shrink away, or they'll just absolutely rebel at some point. So, and again, it's the same thing. You can't love your kids too much. You can just love them the wrong way.
Yeah.
Same thing as a marriage.
And I got a story that I think Amber wouldn't mind me telling. She's told it many times. She's pretty open with it. But early in our marriage, and even here up until a few years ago, Amber probably, and anyone who knows me probably would question Amber, like, what are you thinking doing John with John? But Amber feels differently about me than most people do. Thank God for that. But no, she, you know, it wasn't necessarily that she put me on a pedestal, but she counted on me for her walk probably too much.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm called to be the spiritual leader in my home, and there's no doubt about that. And she's on board with that 100%. But you do have to take responsibility for your own walk. You have to do that. And so over the last few years, she has made her walk her own, and it's really just transformed everything. It's not only transformed her, it's transformed our marriage
and her personal ministry. Like, just from,
you've probably noticed it. Yeah. And so she probably would say that about me, or she would. I've heard her say that about me. But here lately, you know, she's leading so many, you know, in their walk and leading by example for a lot of people, including me and our kids. And it's just been really cool to watch.
Yeah. So I would still consider you in the newlywed phase. How long have you been married?
It'll be 2 years in September.
You're still in the newlywed phase. So
we struggle with that. On both ends.
So kind of give us your perspective.
What I have found, so Danny was kind of similar to Amber. She had never dated a Christian guy that was serious about their faith.
Yeah.
And so that was, dealing with that was new to her. And so I think where we've seen issues is like we have these expectations because of how highly we view the other person. And when they're not met, it's hard to give grace when grace should be given.
That's right. Yep.
For both of us. And so, and it's a two-way street. And so, you know, we're married with no kids, and we have church and our jobs. And so, like, we get that benefit of being able to be newlyweds, you know, and so
enjoy it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So anyways,
so on this front, before we move on, there's a book that everybody should check out that's I found helpful. It's called "What Did You Expect" by Paul Tripp, and it's all about. He starts off basically saying marriage is war, but it's not the war between two people; it's the war inside yourself, kind of thing. And then he talks about we have these crazy expectations of our spouses, and how most fights and most disagreements and a lot of ultimately, you know, divorce is all from unmet expectations. So the title of the book's "What Did You Expect?" It's very valuable and very good.
That's awesome. Cool. I would probably say that lingers out to so many other things other than just marriage too.
For sure.
Like, you know, work relationships, friendships, you know, so much. But anyways, so this can be hard. And for me, the people that I've placed on a pedestal are people that, like, I was benefiting from. You know what I'm saying? Pastors, family members, small group leaders. And so how do we navigate really the fine line of receiving something from people in an instance where the relationship is benefiting me versus idolizing them? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Definitely. So I would start with, and I'm not saying the people that you're talking about did this, but I would start with being really careful with people who are inviting that type of relationship where they want you to look to them for that type of stuff.
So what does that look like? I wouldn't like,
what
is that? What somebody's doing that to you. What is that? What are they doing?
I think when, somebody gives it a lot of advice and most of their advice is like from their own personal opinions.
Okay.
Rather than, scriptural basis or like what they've learned from their walk with Christ or anything like that, especially a spiritual leader in your life.
Yeah.
Personal opinions are probably a red flag. I'm not saying you should never be able to give personal. We're doing some of that right now, obviously. But if somebody is always leading with personal opinions, that's kind of a red flag. If someone is, if you're, a lot of times the leaders can notice this in people, and if they never tell you about it, that might be another red flag because they might enjoy that type of feeling like, yeah, these people admire me, because it's hard. That's a human feeling. Like it's cool to be admired sometimes. And so I'm not saying that that's your experience, but I'm saying, be wary of leaders in that way. But one of the things that I would recommend, one of the things I've tried to do here lately is really try to keep separate that, what my expectations are of another person. Like I no longer have real high expectations for people. Like I don't expect them to be perfect. I don't expect them to be something that I can't be, or that, I don't put anybody, like no matter if they're my pastor, no offense, Bryan, but, or any,
continue. It's really good.
I don't put anybody in a place that would say, oh, they're elevated above me, or they somehow are able to walk this Christian walk better than I can just because of a position they hold, or anything like that. And so for me, I just walk around looking at everybody as we're all jacked up and we're jacked up together. And so it keeps me from really expecting too much out of other people and putting them in that too prominent of a place in my life.
Yeah. I think that, for some people that can be a cop-out, when they place like, oh, that's him, and I'm benefiting from that relationship,
So
and so like I don't have to do that because he's doing that for me.
And he's some type of super Christian, so he's able to do it.
That's really good. In having these conversations, I'm so reminded by the passage that you taught on when you did your hypocrisy message during the God Equation series.
Okay.
The Matthew 23. Where it talks about humility, and it talks about
wanting the head seat at the table, and
the head seat at the table, but also, Jesus being the only center of attention that we should have. He's the only teacher. He's the only true rabbi. He's the only father. Like I should not put these labels. And that what Jesus is saying there is, I'm it, and it's no one else, and no one else can fill this position.
Yeah.
So with that, we live in a culture where celebrity pastors and YouTube influencers are a thing. Believe it or not, people make money off of a YouTube channel. I feel like now more than ever, there's a desire for influence and a desire for popularity. And maybe, I don't want to use the word manipulation, but just a desire to influence people's opinions and have some sort of authority over them. And so, like you said, you mentioned this earlier, we all have that desire within us, I think, to a degree. And I think that it can be channeled for the right things. So how do you think, when I say we, like we as pastors, we as fathers, we as husbands, small group leaders in the, whatever position that you may hold, how do we prevent people from worshiping us or placing us on that pedestal in whatever position we hold in life?
Yeah.
I think you have to remember, first of all, don't put yourself on that pedestal, because like John, I think both of y'all have mentioned this, that there's just some people who they like it. Like it makes them feel good, gives them authority, gives them whatever they might be looking for. So first of all is don't put yourself on that pedestal. So I heard a quote from a guy, I can't remember who it was, but anyway, when it comes to pastors, here's the way I should, because we do, we work in people's lives, we help them as best of and sometimes the Lord allows us to be a part of something that he does in them, and they will say thank you to us, right? Yeah. And so I heard one pastor say the best way to kind of get around to understand that is appreciate the encouragement, but pass the glory to the Lord, because it's his glory. if you touch it, if you try to steal it, yeah, he's gonna have a problem with that. So appreciate the encouragement. So like when people, so I can be real practical on this. So this is why like people on Sundays, you know, I like to mingle in the foyer afterwards and just talk to people, find out how their week's been and that kind of thing. So, and people all frequently come up to me and say, hey, thank you for the message today. And my typical response are, you know, God's got good stuff for us. I stole that one from my father-in-law. So, or thank you for the encouragement, but to Jesus be the glory. So I usually say one of those two things, try to get the focus off of me. I heard another guy say one time that the way he does this is when people say, you know, thank you for the message today. He asks him, he comes right back and says, what part did God speak to you the most strongly in, and what are you going to do about it? You know, so you always are deflecting off of yourself.
Yeah.
And that's typically what I try to do is I always try to deflect off of me, you know? So back to them, I'm more interested in them, and want to stay interested in them. So that's, again, just from a real practical standpoint, that's kind of what and practicing that, have the mind of Christ,
right? Thinking
of others more importantly than yourself. Yeah. And so it's a constant deflection back into, I'm more interested in you.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. And, you know, just thinking like, you know, for those of us who don't have maybe that as much of those experiences, but like friends will do that to you too. Yeah. You know, if you're in someone's life and so I'm thinking like from a friend perspective, if I'm living life with someone and I'm walking through something with them, just constantly pointing them to Jesus, not pointing them to myself or what I've done or what I've accomplished or what I've figured out.
Avoiding the you should do this statements like you should do like I do or
or here's what I've done, but more like here's what Jesus has done in my life maybe. And, you know, just it's simple tweaks to your language and the way you speak can go a long way with like that humility in that verse. To me, that's what's evidence of humility. It's the way we talk, because when we're not humble, it's gonna be a lot of I and you statements. Yeah. But when we do have that spiritual humility that knows who we are at our core and like it's only Jesus that's good in us. Yeah. That language is going to be different. That language is going to be pointing to Jesus, what he's done in our lives, what we've been able to do because of his work in our lives. And I just think as you do that, more and more and more people aren't going to look to you. They're going to see, oh, Jesus is the star of this show, not John or Bryan or Seth or producer Butterworth.
Yeah. And so for now, it's a matter of, you know, you take them to the scripture. That's the other way to do it is, again, I think this is an important distinction. People don't need my opinion. They need to know what Jesus has said. My opinion's worthless. What Jesus has said is the only thing that's eternal. So as quickly as you can, take people to the scripture.
Yeah. You know, I think another, you know, just to add to y'all, what y'all have said so far, like service. Yeah. You know, letting nothing be too low, nothing beneath me in serving someone else.
Yeah, that's true.
That, and then, you know, like, my dad has always been the man that I struggled to put on a pedestal in my life because, you know, like I said, just mentioned one of those relationships where I gained so much from him. I admire him. I love him. And, but one of the ways that he's helped me to not allow that to happen is when he knows that he's in the wrong, or like when he's made a parenting mistake in the past, he's never been afraid to come to me and say, look, I messed up. Like, don't be like me right here. Like, don't be like me in this area. And so, really, you know, if we can, as dads, as friends, as, you know, small group members, as whatever else, whatever the nature of the relationship is, have the humility to serve one another, and then also to fess up when we're just in the wrong. So
own your stuff.
Yeah, I think that can go a long way.
It really can.
Well, all right, guys, I think this has been helpful. We'll wrap up there. Listen, if you like this content, hit the like button, subscribe. We will be back next week on First Take. Bye.
See ya.